When it comes to identifying a genre for our average television series, the perspective of those shows has a distinct difference from a movie with the same genre. The traditional 2-hour movie displays a persistent atmosphere with a unique path and goal, while our multi-episode TV series relies on various elements, including reinforced subplots and character structure, to allow a continuous success. The horror category is one of the most complicating genres to accomplish on television, so we only see a limited amount of horror TV shows, even a smaller amount of quality shows. One of the most successful horror shows in our modern age is none other than Stranger Things, a science fiction suspense series that grasps at a successful aspect on the horror scene. Let's talk about how a show like Stranger Things is able to define the horror genre for television. I am the Old Tin Man, and if you're new to these analysis videos, subscribe and keep an eye out for more Stranger Things material. Don't forget to kick the bell notification button to stay notified when a new video is released. There's a reason we don't have a handful of horror titles in our library of TV shows. It's a risky task to execute. A swift set of jump scares doesn't settle our expectations these days, and we can hardly expect to be content with similar paths in plot development, especially for a horror TV series. That's like taking one road to every one of your destinations. There isn't a change in the scenery. Having similar paranormal, psychological, or disaster situations in a movie is a different matter. We can go to the theater or cinema to see various horror films that have a similar course of action. Someone decides it's a great idea to investigate or disregard unsettling situations, which usually leads to their demise in an entertaining way. These movies can provide a great deal of satisfaction in a short amount of time. The audience approaches these films to gain an adrenaline rush or to test their emotional state. TV shows, on the other hand, cover a lot more ground. Therefore, there needs to be more essential aspects that make a beneficial reason to captivate the viewer. Let's examine Stranger Things' horror components. The Duffer Brothers rendered the Stranger Things horror theme in a significant way. There is subtle control of its thrilling setting, which is provided to the audience early on, but is kept concealed and given in slight moderation until it arrives with greater power. With faint, unscheduled appointments from the mysterious abnormal creatures, we fabricate an even unsettling sense of uncertainty. Either if the supernatural monsters are cloaked in shadow or cleverly placed behind the screen, we have sympathy for the curious individuals of the town of Hawkins, Indiana. Flipping the switch, the Upside Down establishes a distorted hell that parallels Hawkins in the worst possible way. The dark and crooked side of Hawkins embodies an eerie form that our nightmares replicate. We have hardly seen a great portion of the Upside Down, so our knowledge of this world is rather poor. The less we know, the harder it is to grasp at the situation, and the harder it is to keep our minds at ease. Since the show exhibits an 80s backdrop, we get to imagine a familiar world, while carrying a developing storyline. What's more is that Stranger Things reflects a similar ambience to Stephen King's It, a small town dealing with an unnatural being that kidnaps children and brings them to their lair of hell. We have gotten to a point in horror entertainment where we're able to identify what terrifies us from trial and error. Realism in Stranger Things is what really pushes us to fear an unexpected force. Since we have a good 8 episodes to capture and understand the terror in a small community, we can only imagine ourselves in it. Once we can recognize and relate to a character's motive, realism can be one of the greatest factors to the horror genre. Now you might wonder why Stranger Things keeps its horror elements at a minimum and not full force. Think of an ice cream sundae or a pizza pie. For most people, the topping of these edible items is what really brings out the flavor to balance the overall enjoyment. The topping of the pizza is like the horror aspect in Stranger Things. Although this strange analogy of toppings could also reference the theme, musical score, and other extras from any show or film. It's uncommon to find a quality show that keeps the constant theme of the horror genre, although it could possibly be done. A promising horror title is difficult to come by for both movies and television. The delicate genre of Stranger Things lifts a great amount of unprecedented material that could inspire for more horror in a televised environment. Of course, we have shows like Twin Peaks with its mystery and drama, The Walking Dead covering the post-apocalyptic setting, and The Twilight Zone that held its psychological title, each with its own unique horror ingredients. The standard television series is defined by its genre and determines how the show will shape over time. Even the subtlest horror elements could make a raw story. Will we be able to take the risk and evolve the horror genre in the future? I appreciate everyone for watching this analysis. If you want to join our community to see future analysis content on Stranger Things and many other shows, click the red rectangle below the video. What do you want to see me analyze next? Thank you once again, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you.